Ms. Mayweather.
Here.
Mr. Rashke.
Here.
Mr. Culberson.
Here.
Ms. Farrell.
Here.
Ms. Tessmer.
Here.
And Ms. Konishi is here. We have before us the meeting minutes from the last board meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Ms. Mayweather?
Yes.
Mr. Rashke?
Here. Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Tessmer?
Yes.
Ms. Konishi, yes. I will turn it over to our city attorney.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Adjustment and Appeals. This is a board comprised of members from our community that are volunteer members and appointed by our city commission. They are not city employees, and they are charged with representing a board that hears requests for variances from the city's land development code, where literal enforcement of that code would create an unnecessary hardship or an undue burden, and where granting that variance wouldn't be contrary to public interest. The way the meeting will work today, each applicant will be called forward. If you feel more comfortable standing at the middle podium, that's fine, or you're welcome to take a seat. We would ask that you please speak clearly in the microphone, because sometimes it's a little difficult to hear. The board members will be able to ask any questions. If you could actually first state your name and what your request is, and then the board will have the ability to ask any questions. Staff will also may have questions or make a presentation. And then if there are any members from the community that are here to speak for or against a particular variance, they'll be given the chance to do so as well. If you are planning to speak before the board today, I would ask if you could stand at this time so I could swear you in. And that goes with as well as our staff members as well. If you can raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Turn it back over to our chair.
Thank you. Our first application is the location of 1405 Clarendon Avenue. The request is for a 6.25 foot height variance to allow an accessory building with a mean roof height of 18.75 feet in lieu of the maximum height of 12.5 feet specified by Table 4.3-4 of the Land Development Code, to allow for the construction of a new detached garage on the property located at 1405 Clarendon Avenue. Can you state your name and address?
Curtis Smith. I live at 1405 Clarendon Avenue.
Thank you. Can you give us a brief description of your application, your request?
Yes, and if you look at the plotted out diagram up there, subject property, on the south side of the pool area, those are two lots that run east and west from Clarendon over to the easement runs up right there. I would like to put an 1,800 square foot garage, 30 by 60, and I want to make it to the point where it has a 14-foot door on it, which is the reason for the height requirement. The purpose of that is if my wife or I chooses to buy a Class A RV in the future, we can park it inside, or if there's a desire to purchase a boat in the future. The current intended use of it for would be just to store a couple of motorcycles and also have additional storage area for our possessions. Working with Phil and his team, went above and beyond with, you have some pictures you can show?
Yes, sir.
Like the house?
Yep.
Okay, so now that's my neighbor's property. Benny's here today. That's his property right beside it. Can you go back to the main house?
I have to forward to it.
There we go. So the main house, we feel we're going to do brick on all four sides due to the height of the structure. And if you see the Cornish detail at the top of the, on the softened fascia of the main house, that will be matched on the detached garage as well. And also the soldier walk will be matched on the garage as well. Now the front door design you see, that will be around the door on the garage. The garage will have the main door at the front, which will all still be located behind the fence. And it will have a small entry door on the pool side, plus a smaller 8-foot door for lawn equipment near the back. All the entries will either face Clarendon Avenue or it will face our property. None of it will be facing our neighbors. The building is also relocated, so meeting the 5-foot requirement from the property line, we moved it to 10 feet. Because once the building's built, I want to put up barrier shrubs on the property line to shield the building from the neighbor's view and also make it more private. Any questions?
Good morning. For the record, I'm Philip Scarce, Principal Planner with Community Economic Development. I'm just going to get back up through the slides a bit just to reorientate you on the site. So, yes, this is Mr. Smith's property right here. It's a 0.88 acre lot located in the southwest corner of the Crystal Lake Drive and Clarendon Avenue. The home was built in 1925. The applicant intends, as he said, to 1,800 square foot detached garage with a mean roof height of 18.75 feet. Under the Land Development Code, the maximum height is 12.5 feet. The subject property is an estate lot comprising of 4 lots within the Belvedere subdivision, designed to accommodate a much larger single-family home than a typical single-family lot. The existing single-family home is of a unique masonry vernacular style with red brick veneer and detailed cornice, and consisting of a frieze and board trim with brackets. Showing you, this is looking west. The little Carolina carport right there is about the area where the shed will go. It'll be set back 10 feet from the property line. The normal setback in the zoning district is 5 feet. This gives you a little better indication. There's a next door. There's a separate accessory dwelling unit. That would be next to the property line there. That went to Planning and Zoning Board for approval about 5 or 6 years ago. Again, better shot looking west. The accessory structure will go behind this fence. Is that correct, Mr. Smith?
Yes, and it'd be set back about 30 feet. So where the green building is up in the corner. That green building would no longer be there, and you would just see the garage in the front.
Yep.
From this point.
And again, Mr. Smith talked about the design of the house. He worked with us on the design of the accessory structure to make sure everything matches architecturally. And like I said, here's some elevations to show you what the brick structure would look like. And then this is the site plan. Again, you can't really see that fence line, but here's where the proposed structure will go, 10 feet from the side and the rear. I'm just gonna leave it right here.
Are we putting in a new driveway?
I don't intend to put a driveway because it's not going to be high usage. I didn't want to run
I
auxiliary
thought you
driveway.
said you were going to possibly look at an RV.
That would be a discussion down the road. I really don't want to mess up the front yard. I just need the building more for storage and stuff. And since we're going to make the investment, I'd like to make it to the height, whereas if a decision was made down the road, the structure is already there.
Yeah, then there's plenty of frontage on Clarendon if he so chooses to do that, or they can connect the two from the existing driveway, but there's plenty of frontage to have a separation distance from that driveway. Accessory structure heights, as I mentioned, heights are regulated to minimize visual impacts to adjacent property owners. In this particular case, the property is 224 feet wide by 173 deep. Again, we mentioned this at 0.8 acres in size and surrounded by a large lot single-family development. As we mentioned, to reduce the impacts, the applicant has agreed to place the building a minimum of 10 feet from the setback from the property line, whereas 5 feet is the norm. Staff finds that the proposed height of 18.75 feet structure will have minimal impacts to adjacent property owners. The design and exterior will match the unique architecture style of the primary structure. In addition, the maximum accessory height allowed by Table 4.3-4 limits the opportunity to have covered indoor parking for recreational vehicles, where in certain cases it's most desirable and less than impact to store them out. It's just more of an impact to store them outside than it is inside. So in this case, if he has an RV, it'll be inside. It won't be sitting outside where that could detract from the property values. Therefore, approval would not be contrary to the public interest. Staff finds the request. Staff recommends that this request receive consideration for approval, provided there is no substantive objections from adjacent property owners, subject to the following conditions. The detached garage shall be limited to a maximum floor area of 30 by 60 or 1,800 square feet. The detached garage shall be set back a minimum of 10 feet from the interior side and rear property lines. The detached garage shall be constructed in substantial accordance with the architectural elevations shown in attachment A, which you've seen previously here. And replicate the decorative brick veneer finish, cornice, and trim details utilized by the existing single-family home. Conventional materials such as stucco brick may be utilized in lieu of brick veneer to provide the brick veneer, provided that the brick size, course, and pattern used and coloring is, is matched to the existing home. So, staff does recommend approval. Interestingly, this case was heard by the Zoning Board of Appeals in December 2020. That motion failed 3-2 due to only 5 members being present, with Kent Culberson and Eden Kanishi voting to deny. No changes have been made to the application since the original request was denied by the board in 2020. But staff, our recommendation still remains the same. The applicant has gone above and beyond what most people do as far as accessory structures, and we recommend approval. Stand for any questions you may have.
Can you go back to the picture of the house next to you, please? And that's a mother-in-law's quarters you're looking at? That's not the
It
main
is.
house.
Benny, that's Benny's property, and he's been very supportive as long with my neighbors.
Do you mind coming up to the mic?
Okay.
Let us hear your voice. You're
Hello.
the one that's going to have to live next to this.
Yes, my name is Benny Allred. I live at 1417 Clarendon Avenue.
You're Anna's husband.
Correct.
I grew up on that street.
Oh, yes, okay.
1609 is what I grew up on.
And she did too.
Yes, she did. We were good friends back then.
Okay,
Still are.
okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that area.
Well, I'm, we live next door to Curtis, and so we are in support of this structure. We had a structure built in 18 and 19, so again, we're in support of it.
Okay, thank you.
This is plotted as one cohesive lot, this area?
Well, it's a mixture of 4 lots, but it combined. They've been, under one ownership, so it's one parcel ID number with the property appraiser.
So the point where I wasn't entirely clear, and I'm sure you stated it clearly, but I just wasn't there, is, can you go to the overhead diagram where it's kind of, where we see the overhead view? What I wasn't clear on when we were talking about variances on the inside lines, are we just talking about, I'm assuming this is a north-south diagram.
It is.
On the south side, I understand that clearance. Are we also talking about something on the east side of that fence?
Yeah, right here, there'll be a setback of 10 feet.
So if it's
It'll be 10 feet
okay,
from the south.
so that would be the west side, I would
Yes, sir.
consider.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
on the west side. On the east side,
There's no clearance issues on the east side.
none whatsoever. No, it's so like I said, this is part of their yard right here, but it'll be behind the existing fence that's there now.
And letters went out to the neighbors, and apart from the gentleman we heard
Yes,
from.
and I didn't hear back from anybody.
Yeah, we did send out anyone who touched the property and anyone across the street there, so we would have gotten the neighbors to the west.
Now, we did probably, and you can't, obviously, not every 2 cases are not the same, but we did hear a while ago, I believe it was on Seville, about a very tall accessory structure to a large house that was building on Seville or one of those neighboring street in the Lake Hollingsworth area,
Right.
where we approved that. I think largely we approved it, well, I can't speak for everyone, but the lot did not have near neighbors where the accessory structure was. It was not encroached by nearby buildings to a large extent. Here, there obviously are structures nearby where this accessory building would go.
Also, I think I remember that case you're referring to. I believe that one, when you actually drove by it, you couldn't see. You couldn't see the roof because the house itself was obstructing that view.
You'll have good memories. That was a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a very large accessory building. It's probably comparable to a small single-family home as far as the footprint and, the height is.
Yeah, it's a very large structure.
It's very, relatively very tall, so it's an unusual request, but, RVs are, I mean, they're, people want to protect their investment, and so it's not uncommon that we see this. We did try to work with the applicant, at least to come up with a design that would be more compatible with the house, not just a utilitarian type, beige box.
So these are roll-up door or doors on the front side?
Yeah, it's going to be a roll-up door. The one thing that, when I move forward, I need to address the hurricane codes as well for the doors. So that it could either be a bifold door like an airplane hangar, or it could be a roll-up door. Depends on the specification I need to meet for the surface area of it to meet the hurricane requirements.
And then on the side view, I see just a standard door. And then I see another, I don't know if that's class block. What is this other larger entrance?
That would be a small 8-foot roll-up door, so I can move lawn equipment in and out efficiently, easily.
And is that toward your home or away from your home?
That is toward our home, away from that would be the northwest corner of the building. So that wall to the right of the door, that would be facing my neighbor. And then the wall that has no windows or anything faces his property. All the entrances to the building is either toward the east on Clarendon, where we have a lot of clearance, or toward my property, toward the pool area.
I want to go back to the city, and I'm sure the city has given due consideration to this building. And the city has recommended for can I just get more insight there, because we're obviously going against code. There's no
Right.
we're going against what we have. There's not a geographic reason why. There's no reason why this should be approved. Can I gain greater insight into
Sure.
why
Well,
the city is?
right. When we looked at the size of the lot, the adjacent, the setbacks they're proposing, and his willingness to work with us on the design. A lot of people, this is in my years of doing this, I've never seen a variance be so accommodating with the design. Most people just, this is what we want, and this, we'll just take it to the ZBA, whether or not we like the design or not. This is what the setbacks are. In this case, we worked with the applicant, to try, and because of the size of the lot was, could accommodate it. We didn't think that this would be would not impact the residents as it's going behind the fence. There is opportunity for additional buffer within those 10 feet setbacks. And the additional height is in character with the house that's there now. So that's why we're recommending approval.
If the applicant was going to ask for a driveway, would that need a variance currently?
Where's the current driveway, Philip? Is it on Clarendon?
Yes.
Yeah, they would have to tie into the existing driveway. They would not be allowed to have a second driveway on Clarendon.
So I know the driveway's not in front of us today, but it could be in front of us next month. Are we setting a precedence by, okay, the building's been built, why don't we let him have a driveway in the future? Those are things going through my mind.
Right.
Is there a curb on this street, or is it kind of one of these not really a curb?
It's not really a curb. You can drive over it. Something I want to add, if everyone still has time, is after the first time that this was denied by the board, we looked at options. One of the options was to turn it into an auxiliary dwelling unit. Now, that would remove the restrictions of being attached to garage, allow me more height and everything. Challenge with that is, first of all, it's my wife and I. We do not need more living space by any means. But if I did do an auxiliary dwelling unit, that enables the structure to go higher. But then I have to put the dwelling unit in the building, which would be second floor up, so you'd have the space on the first floor. Now that requires a window for the bedroom, which puts windows over my neighbors. That requires an additional door, elevated with stairs to meet fire codes. And my wife and I felt that would be more impact to our neighbors than it would be to come back and ask for this to be approved. So we looked at options, and this is still, in my mind, talking to my neighbors as well, this seems to be the best option to meet the aesthetics of the property, to keep the integrity of the neighborhood. Greg, as you've grown up there, it's a nice street, and I'll keep the integrity of the neighborhood, looks good. And, you know, it's a classy looking piece of property instead of throwing up a metal building or a Quonset hut or something, which I do not want to do because I don't want to ruin the property value nor the looks of the neighborhood.
I think that I like the design. I'm just worried about you having to come back for the driveway, for the RV. And what if that's
That's
denied?
honestly not my intention. This is more, I mean, yeah, let's be honest here. There's a little bit of man cave mentality going into
Well, I
this.
know, but you opened the door when you said with this 14-foot
Yeah.
door for a future RV,
If we get one.
possibly.
I mean, the
I hear
maximum
you.
I would probably consider buying would probably, you know, I like military equipment. Occasionally I would buy a deuce and a half something to flip because my neighbor had one down the street. You remember Don Flynn? He had that deuce and a half. But no, it's about a nice building that's aesthetic to the neighborhood and tall, you know, if down the road we choose to do something else, put a boat in it or something, it's there. But, you know, obviously you see there's a trailer in the backyard. There's a 10-foot easement that separates the two lots that this sits on from the other three that runs north and south from Clarendon. And that easement has a gate, and that's the entry and exit. And, you know, the grass is in great shape. And, you know, sometimes I put a vehicle back there.
Well, if I just have a quick point of clarification as
Yes.
well. The conditions that the applicant is willing to agree to, I don't recall there being any conditions on the first presentation to the board. I think are these?
No, these are not new. This is,
They are the
because
same.
I just used the same staff report
Okay,
from
okay.
This is
2020.
identical to what was presented to you.
Okay.
Yeah, and the applicant he made a really good point about the accessory dwelling unit. If you were to do an accessory dwelling unit like his neighbor has, we allow for a two-story structure, a maximum height of 24 feet with, as long as there's a garage underneath. So you can have a first floor garage, second floor accessory dwelling unit, and that maximum height is 24 feet.
But
And
that would be
was-
for a more,
That'd be for
traditional
accessory
size
dwelling
garage.
unit.
You would not be able to have an RV garage with a apartment above, and the apartment would be capped at 800 square feet would be the maximum floor area. So you would not have a 1,800 square foot apartment over a RV garage, just to clarify there.
And this will be the only size garage in that area, in your area on that street?
It's pretty, yeah. There's a neighbor down the street, he has a metal building as a garage, and it meets, you know, the code that he's referencing. And then there's another metal building in the same neighborhood, about 4 or 5 streets away. And they're not bad looking, but it looks like exactly what it is. It's a metal commercial warehouse type looking building. And if you're driving through the neighborhood, it does catch your eye. And that was the reason for wanting this to, you know, match the existing house and everything.
You mentioned planting additional shrubbery.
Say that again?
You mentioned planting additional shrubbery.
Yeah, once the
Could you just repeat
building's
that
up, the reason for going with the 10-foot clearance, that enables me to use a zero-turn mower to maintain, you know, the landscaping. But I would put either bamboo or something, you know, I work with my neighbors, you know, what would you like to see? I have one neighbor superstitious about bamboo being transplanted. She's from Cambodia. But I'd put something up that would start growing with height to even shield the building more on the west side and plus the south side.
Can I ask the city attorney a question? I realize the effect is no different from one way or the other, but, and I'm not saying I'm going to enact on this, but am I permitted to abstain?
No, you are not. You have to vote. That would be too easy.
So, Kent, may I ask, what's your concerns? This is a learning experience for me.
Yeah, no, it's just, and I have not made up my mind yet.
What makes you
but
nervous?
There's nothing here to tell me to vote for this. You've made a lot of effort, I understand that, and I certainly, I appreciate the effort, but I have to adhere to what I interpret as the code, and without an extensible reason to permit it. Having the neighbors is certainly nice, but that's not giving me a reason to vote for this. If there was a geographic reason, if there was that this would never be seen by any human being except yourself, that's the reason I would consider, and that's, I think, why we voted yes on Seville. But this is a large structure that can be seen by all neighbors and by anyone driving down the street. And there are alternatives. It could be attached. It could be, you could do a living environment. So I'm just struggling reasons to vote for it. Like I said, I fully appreciate all the effort that went into this. I respect the city's viewpoint, but I have to interpret the code and look for reasons to go against the code.
The only concern I can address there is if there's not much traffic on Clarendon, the traffic would be on North Crystal Lake Drive, and that's completely opposite of the .8 acres. And you really don't see it because there's a fence there, there's vegetation there and everything. So other than that, everything else you said, you know, it's valid. It is requesting a variance.
And city, the application, there's essentially no difference in the application?
It was the exact same.
Okay.
Eden, you're thinking, what,
No, I'm thinking whether I want to make a motion to deny or whether someone else wants to make a motion.
Eden's up there looking at both screens a lot, so I see the wheels turning.
Well, I'm not permitted to make a motion one way or the other as the chairman, so I can only voice my opinion after other people. I don't want to sway. to
Okay, I
one way or
understand.
the other.
Thank you. Greg, you used to live on the street. What's your thoughts?
You know, it's a humongous building, even though it looks like it's going to be very elegant and tie into the house. But it's that RV, once you said RV and I'm thinking of the driveway coming in, it just throws me off. I'm just being honest with you.
Okay, so the driveway, possible driveway access in the future
Because
is a challenge.
I know the streets are rather narrow, and getting the RV in, plus if that's your intent, you're going to have to come back in the future.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't want to offend anyone who owns an RV, but if you've ever stayed in one over a couple of nights, they're not all they're cracked up to be.
What's that?
Some-
Your RVs?
Yeah. Something about having to constantly empty tanks is not appealing.
Well, my parents had one, they hated it.
He loves his. So I don't want to butcher your first name, ma'am, but Mayweather. Mrs., what's your thoughts?
Well, just, again, the code and just making sure that it's, you know, it's a request that's fair and it's, you know, within compliance. I've noticed this sentence here, or this comment or statement, I should say, where it says, on the 2.0 discussion, oh, maybe I need to put these on. Where it just mentions the development code, however, then it says it limits accessory buildings such as detached garages to maximum mean roof height of 12.5. So I'm just with his question on what just gets the city to agree, you know, to move forward with this particular request. I mean, to be honest, I mean, I love it. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
But again, just curious and just how the, you know, what makes the city want to allow this type of
I have a
structure?
question. Is there a lesser height that would accommodate an RV, or no? This is just a standard that would,
Obviously, the investment we're making is substantial. So if you're going to go for it. And that would accommodate anything. Class A, I think you need 12 feet for your RV, right? So 12 feet. So, you know, if y'all choose to deny this today, I am going to have to go back to the architecture, lower the height of the building, which also removes the requirements to match detail and everything. But then working with his team, understand, then there requires a variance to ask for a 12-foot door, because you might be able to redesign the building to accommodate a 12-foot door. And then obviously if you continue to go down, if I'm going to have to go to an 8-foot door, you know, that limits the ability to put a boat or any, you know, a lot of vehicles in there. So that was the reason for going for the height in the
I
first
mean, I
place.
think that was just my question.
Yeah,
Because I don't know
it's-
if the board would be more agreeable to a lower height, if that would make a difference or not.
Yeah, if the height is 12.5 feet,
Yes.
if it's at 12.5 median feet, I mean, I could go to like two people in the neighborhoods that put up a tacky metal building, which, you know, if I have to meet the 12.5 feet, I'm still not going to do the tacky metal building.
The 12.5
I'm just
feet
not
would
going to make
measure-
it.
would be measured from the mean roof height, it would not be measured from the actual wall height or whatever.
Yeah.
So you would not be able to fit a 12-foot RV within that 12-foot height
Right.
limit there, unless you did a flat roof, like a carport.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Ms. Mayweather?
Approve.
Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
No.
Ms. Farrow? No. Ms. Tessmer?
Yes.
And Ms. Konishi, no. I didn't say anything prior to, because I didn't want to sway the board. My reasoning is because this is a historic district and because this is such a substantial structure, I'm very hesitant to approve something of this size and nature. And you're right, it's not as visible from Crystal Lake Drive, but it's still visible to other neighbors, plus it would be setting a precedent. So, and my stance really hasn't changed from the last time when you appeared before us. So your application hasn't changed, it's exactly the same, and my opinion hasn't changed. So I appreciate what you're doing. I do think that it is a beautiful structure. It's just, I have to go with how I feel, how the code is represented. And also, I feel like this is not a hardship. This is kind of a bit of a luxury item. So that's why I'm voting the way I'm voting.
And just to put into perspective, we had four members approve and 3
Correct.
deny, and we need 5 affirmative votes to approve a variance according to our bylaws, so it did not pass.
So I will be back again. Recommendations, save us all a little bit of time.
I would just re-emphasize or simply emphasize that and I don't mean to speak for everyone on the board, but certainly myself, is that I, as a member of this board, I view my purpose is to help the community as much as I can. I want to be welcoming, and I want to make any accommodations as I can. This goes, the height of this building is outside of that margin of workability for me. This is significantly outside that line. So my mission is to help the community as much as possible and find gray areas that everyone can be happy and there's not a deliberate violation of the code. Just kind of a gray margin area. This is, to me, this is black or white, and this is not. This is on the bad side of that.
I would say that although I voted yes, I was very close to not. I would like to see what the driveway would look like. I would think that that should be part of your application. My consideration is you want it so high for an RV, but yet you aren't applying also for the same time for a driveway that would also need a variance. So I think if we can get a whole picture of what that's going to be without a concern coming back, if you're going to stick with that height for that purpose of an RV, that would make me feel a lot better about having said yes.
I understand. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the time. And Eden Kent, as I understand it, you moved up since the last time I've been here, so congratulations.
Yeah, everybody else left. By default.
Take
we
the
got-
win. Don't say custom
Thank you for
attrition.
coming out, and we do welcome you to come back again.
All right.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you, Phil, and your team for helping out so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, we have 5902 Cormorant Court. The request is for a 5-foot variance to allow a 10-foot corner yard setback in lieu of the 15-foot minimum corner yard setback specified by the PUD zoning for Sandpiper Golf and Country Club to allow for the construction of a new single-family detached home on the property located at 5902 Cormorant Court. Good morning. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name's David Tavlin. I'm president of Crossroads Construction. I also own the golf course, Sandpiper. And there is no RV parking allowed. So. Actually, I do want to state that our request was for a 7.5-foot setback. That's shown in the description in the application, yet the agenda item says a 10-foot. So it's a 7.5 is what we're looking for. That's what was approved in 2019. Our plans were submitted by Kimley Horn to the city. It was all approved in 2019. And now I'm starting to build some houses. We've already built houses on some of the interior lots, and now we're starting to build them on these edge lots, and this has come up. There's some verbiage on there about a corner lot, but these are end lots. I mean, they go to the end of the development. You go out onto Sandpiper Club Boulevard, and then you have to come back into the development. There's 18 to 24 feet from the inside of curb to sidewalk. The sidewalk isn't there yet from the city side, and then we want another 7.5, which would far exceed what the corner lot setbacks are to the sidewalk. So I'm kind of here asking for variances to do nothing different than what my plans that were approved by the city say to do.
Was there a change in the code between the time that the plans were approved and now?
No, and there's been an extensive conversation with Mr. Tavlin and his engineer, Mark Wilson and Kimley Horn, and before we advertised this, we did confirm with Mr. Wilson that he would be asking for a 5-foot variance to have a 10-foot street side setback for those corner lots. That setback would be measured from the edge of the sidewalk along the street there, the Sandpiper Club, I believe is the...
Sandpiper Club Boulevard, from the inside of...
We're talking about from a sidewalk here, so Mr. Tavlin, the way he interpreted the code was not correct. The 7.5 feet he's referring to, if you look at the first site plan, it shows a 7.5-foot wide landscape buffer. That was part of the PUD. It was intended to be a landscape buffer. That was not a setback.
And if I may, you see where it says 7.5-foot wide landscape buffer, it points to that setback line 7.5 feet. And
for the landscape buffer, sir, that's not for the house setback.
okay, the platting and everything showed it as 7.5 feet. So and again, the last gentleman said this is a learning process for me, but all these lots, everything, and everything I've got from my civil engineer and my surveyor shows this dotted line as our setback line. As you can see, these lots, you go out of the development, it's an end lot. It's not a corner lot. And you can see over here on lot 35, I think it is, there's 24.5 feet from the curb to the property line, and we're just asking for it to be another 7.5.
Okay, so what we advertised for was for a 5-foot variance to allow a 10-foot setback, with the exception of the one lot which you have a house underway on.
Correct.
Which was a separate issue. That's what we agreed to with you and your engineer moving forward. So if you want to request
But it's in
greater variance, we will need to re-advertise for that. cost you an
on
additional-
your website, that information's there. It's in there. I looked this morning.
Just a moment though, but if he's requesting a lesser corner side setback, we've advertised the 10-foot.
Correct. We would need to renotice, sir. We would have to come back next month if that's what you want to request. We confirmed this with your engineer before we advertised that this is what he stated you needed.
I did the applications. I don't know how my civil engineer got involved. I wrote these up there. I actually have copies of even what the city wrote up, which was what I'm asking for. But then the agenda, when I printed it today, didn't have the same information. So I'm confused there too. I mean, I wrote up, and it's in the city's items here, in the request. I mean, it's on every one.
If you look at the variance application, it does say 7.5 feet, and then it is different on the actual,
Yeah, it does.
and now it does say,
His site plans do not show a setback. If you look at what he submitted, they show the lot layout. They show generic footprints, so he did not provide actual plans for any houses for those lots.
I'm sorry. I'm a little hard of hearing, so I apologize.
You did not provide house plans for any of the lots that you're requesting
The
a variance
houses are
for.
custom built. The dotted lines you see are just a 50 by 50 footprint. So the houses can be anything up to, we go to 49.4 by 49.4 to make sure we're within block work and we're not going with stucco going to 50-foot one. So
Varga, can you pull up the typical lot setbacks that were shown on the plat that Mr. Tavlin keeps referring to and show what they are? And there's some confusion here again about what he is referring to as the setbacks on the.
It's down on the corner here for a corner lot. It's a 15-foot side setback on the corner. And then,
and that's all the way out to the edge of sidewalk, and we're at 20 to 24.
So that setback starts at your property line, the 15-foot.
Again, this is a corner lot. These are end lots. I mean, it stops. The development stops. It goes out to a divided road.
So the right-of-way for Sandpiper Club Boulevard is these heavy lines.
I understand that.
And that is the street. That is the right-of-way for the street. We don't measure from the edge of the pavement. We measure from the right-of-way line. So that's why these lots are considered corner lots.
Okay, and you see that dotted line and you see my dotted lines. And that dotted line represents a 7.5 foot distance. Looking at it in CAD, looking at it, however, I've got some stuff from my engineer that shows what every one of them is, and it's a 7.5 foot line. I can only go by the plans that were
landscape
approved.
buffer.
But if for
Right
now,
here,
if we've got to go 10 feet, I mean, I've already lost customers. I'm paying for somebody's rent because I've stopped working on the one that they said I've got to build a smaller home on. So if right now we've got to go for 10 and I have to come back if I need to for 7.5 on some, then let's just leave it at that. But I don't know where the error was made. But I submitted the application and now it's different. I just need to move forward. Interest rates are going higher. Everything's going. Now we've had a hurricane. It's just everything's working against me here, and I'm dead in the water. Lost 2 of the people on some of these lots already, and had to stop on lot 35, and they're in an apartment. I'm paying the rent. So again, if I'd have to come back, let's just go ahead with what's in there 10 feet, because it will help me. There's only a couple lots that would get into, and maybe I can find a smaller home, or if I have to, I'll come back for a variance on the 7.5.
I was going to say this lot is 72 feet wide, so the 5 foot on the side.
Which lot?
The south side.
These are by Sandpiper standards, these are very large lots here, so these are not like typical 40-foot or 60-foot lots.
No, most of the lots in Sandpiper for homes of this size are 65 by 85. There are some odd-shaped lots like 14 that we have right here that becomes a larger lot.
Okay, let me just ask for some clarification so that, because I'm a little confused. So the application says that when you turn this in, you were asking, indicates a 7.5-foot side setback line.
Yes, and that keeps me out of all the 50-foot footprints. And I did that because I assumed the plans were approved. That's what was approved. So I'm not trying to change my approved plans from 2019. So I thought that made sense.
But now
So he would, and I'm going to build on to your question
Thank you.
because I'm just making sure that I understand as well. So if it was a 7.5-foot corner side yard setback that he would need, instead of a 5-foot variance, it would be a 7.5-foot variance request? Is that what we're saying?
That's correct. But again, if we're set to the 5 and the 10, I have homes right now, I wouldn't be able to build on any of these lots. It'd cost me about $750,000.
And that was Mr. Lyons' point when he said it would have to be re-advertised, because if it was a lesser impact, that wouldn't be an issue. We could decide.
Right, and I'm saying because these homes can be different sizes, it may be that it doesn't come into play, and I just tell whoever on some of these lots, well, you can only go so wide. If it becomes a real problem, then I'd come back. Right now, they're all very close to the 10, and the reason I said 7.5 is because it's what my plans show that were approved. So I didn't know whether I'd get into a whole nother, ball of wax here if I was changing plans that were approved in 2019. I mean, I felt like I was coming here to ask that nothing be changed.
Right.
So
he would have to actually apply again and then re-advertise, and that would put him out, what, a month and a half?
We'll be at the next month's meeting there.
Oh, the next month?
Yes.
Okay, there's enough time for him to advertise, to make it.
I wouldn't come back and immediately advertise. I'd wait and see what happens, because again, we have models they can go out to 49.4. Most of them are not that big. It may mean that I'm gonna get right down to my minimum setback on the downside to get it within there, but my engineer drew me something with the setback being 10 feet, and there's only a couple lots. Fortunately, I'm building on lot 30 right now, and you can see lot 30 does set in enough, and it met the 15-foot setback. There's already a roof on that house. Lot 35, we are asking for something different there, and we'll have to get to that when we get there because of the shape of the house.
Yeah, we probably should have started with that one
Yeah.
first.
It's the worst case scenario.
Okay.
So can we go through the applications that you do have in right now, determine which ones we can actually move forward with, so that you're still...
All of them at 10 foot, and that may solve everything except for lot 35. And it specifically is noted different, and it is correct.
Yeah, the conversation we agreed on with the engineer, we would go for a lesser setback for lot 35, because that home was approved in August, and that approval was based on incorrect plot plan. It was actually a plot plan for an interior lot, but
that's not the case either. We resubmitted the plot plan correctly, and that's shown within the city documents.
But the approval was based on the interior, it was the wrong plot plan, sir.
The initial submittal had the incorrect plot plan in it.
And we immediately resubmitted it.
Okay, so this first application, if we had somebody make a motion to extend this till next month, that would give you enough time to re-advertise, and then we can go through the rest of the applications. Is that correct?
No, I would say we go through all of them at 10 foot, and it should be fine. We have the one for 35. It is correct in here and advertised correctly in here.
He's saying he's willing to move forward with these, that the
With all of
5-foot variance.
Yes, ma'am, because again, it may be that I'm fine all the way down the line at 10 foot, depending on what, lot 35 is the only one we're gonna have to discuss, and it is in there correctly at what we need to build the house that we've already started building. We've already got a building permit, we've already got inspections, we've got foundations in the ground. I tried to lift up one end, it's just too heavy, couldn't move it.
But to your point, I agree, like, if there were some in here that he would need to, we could continue those, and the board could consider the ones that he was comfortable moving forward with.
Okay, but you're comfortable with all of them?
Well, I'm as comfortable as I could be here, standing here asking that nothing be done to my approved plans, and I'm sitting here spending money on variances, asking to do nothing. I'm not real happy, but I can't. Look, I said it's a learning experience, so I still think they're in lots. I'm not going to win that battle. So let's just go on what we got is all I know to do. I mean, it's going to benefit me because, you know, I've got folks ready to build on 31 and 10 feet will clear it. I've got folks ready to build on 25 and 10 feet will clear it. It's actually 14 is close, and 31 is pretty close. I'd have to look, but it frees me up a little bit. Like I said, I've already had a couple people just back off, say it's just too much between interest rates, and they think all our gas is going to disappear, and Putin's going to lob a nuke. And
Well, any ones that you're comfortable with us going ahead and reviewing today?
Yes, ma'am.
Then we'll go ahead and move forward. If there are any that you are uncomfortable with, then we can put in for a continuance.
Sure.
Okay. All right then. Let's go.
So we're back to 5902.
Yes. Variance 22-026.
And the city, apart from your comments, do you have anything else to add?
No, the purpose of this request is to grant him some relief along the street side setback so that they can build a home. Most of the residents play golf and desire a 2-car garage and a golf cart garage. Those homes can be, a little wider than normal because now you're looking at a much wider garage than normal.
very few lots can accommodate that. One that happens to be that way is 35.
Exactly, yeah. So rather than amend the PUD to allow for a reduced setback, the applicant has requested the variance relief because we can get him in front of the ZBA faster. Like he said, interest rates are rising, and we don't want him to lose business. So we do recommend approval. This is the close-up of the lot here, lot 14. Here's an aerial, here's a photograph of the site.
That's west looking east from a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, this is from the cul-de-sac. Here, looking over to lot 14. And then there's a little bit closer of a view. But we do recommend approval. There will still be the 7.5-foot landscape buffer between the house and Sandpiper Club Boulevard, and roughly 20 to 25 feet of clear recovery area before you get to the edge of the pavement for Sandpiper Club Boulevard, which again is why Mr. Tavlin is arguing that it shouldn't be a corner lot because of that extra.
Gotcha.
Not arguing, just asking.
So.
Because it's actually on the back side and the front is facing the cul-de-sac itself.
Yes, you'll be looking at the front of the house from the cul-de-sac here. Yeah.
No, you're looking at the rear of the house.
Oh, this is the rear of the house and the cul-de-sac?
Don't give me.
Oh,
I tried to get the city to turn the house on the cul-de-sac around. They said, no, it needed to be on the main road. Cormorant Court's the same road. Cormorant Court on either side is the same road, but they insisted because houses on lot 16, 17, 18 all face the road, they wanted 14 and 15 to also face the road.
Okay.
Which I guess makes sense.
My apologies, yeah, I didn't, because there is no building, I just assumed that it would face the cul-de-sac.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, 14 is a pretty desirable lot because they get a backyard, so they like that. And there happens to be the 13th green straight across the street.
Right.
So again, we do recommend approval of this reduction to the corner side yard setback from 5 feet, or from 15 feet to 10 feet. I think that's the last. There's one more slide.
Any questions from the board?
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Ms. Mayweather?
Yes.
Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Tessler?
Yes.
And Ms. Konishi, yes. Moving along. We have 660 Avocet Avenue. The request is for a 5-foot variance to allow a 10-foot corner side yard setback in lieu of the 15-foot minimum corner side setback specified by the PUD zoning for Sandpiper Golf and Country Club to allow for the construction of a new single-family detached home on the property located at 660 Avocet Avenue.
You have, again, the same.
Same thing.
The same issue that we had with the last case. Here's the subject property. Again, you can see that there's, from the north property line, there's going to be substantial right-of-way until you get to the edge of pavement for Sandpiper Club Boulevard, and there will be a sidewalk and a landscape buffer in there as well. Here's the overall plan as to where this sits in the new modification to the PUD that added these 36 units. And
40 total, there's 5
40.
up on.
That's right, yes. There's some up further, right. And then here's the lot plan as submitted. Here's a photograph of the site. I don't think,
Been a lot of cleanup done in the last few days before that hurricane.
yeah, I'm sure it doesn't look like that now. So, yeah.
Any questions from the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Ms. Mayweather?
Yes.
Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Tessmer?
Yes.
Ms. Konishi, yes. Next. 5995 Cormorant Court. The request is for a 5-foot variance to allow a 10-foot corner side yard setback in lieu of the 15-foot minimum corner side setback specified by the PUD zoning for the Sandpiper Golf and Country Club to allow for the construction of a new single-family detached home on the property located at 5995 Cormorant Court.
Again, it's the same idea. Here's the aerial with the subject property in. Again, you can see the edge of pavement for Sandpiper Club Boulevard. And then here's where the lot line, the northern lot line would sit. There'll be, again, a sidewalk and a landscape buffer between there. Here's where it fits in the overall plan. Here's a close-up of the lot. And then here is a picture of the lot from Cormorant Court. Yep, that's the only one I have.
Anybody know what a cormorant is?
We do, I do.
Good. It was almost impossible to find bird names. It amazed me.
Oh, and again, we recommend approval of the variance.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Ms. Mayweather?
Yes.
Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Tessmer?
Yes.
Ms. Konishi, yes. Next up is 5992 Teal Trail. Request is for a 5-foot variance to allow a 10-foot corner side yard setback in lieu of the 15-foot minimum corner side setback specified by the PUD zoning for Sandpiper Golf and Country Club to allow for the construction of a new single-family detached home on the property located at 5992 Teal Trail.
Again, here's the aerial photo showing the location of the lot. Here's the overall PUD, or overall site plan. A close-up of the lot drawing. And then here is a picture of the lot, and you can see there's Sandpiper Club Boulevard, where that car is. And then here's another shot of Sandpiper Club Boulevard. And again, we recommend approval.
Okay, any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Ms. Mayweather?
Yes.
Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Farrell? Yes. Ms. Tessmer?
Yes.
Ms. Konishi, yes. Is that it?
One more.
Any more? One more. Dang it.
This is the one
This is the one.
that we probably should have had first, but go ahead.
Okay, so 659 Avocet Avenue. This is a request for a 6.4-foot variance to allow an 8-foot, 6-inch corner corner side yard setback in lieu of the 15-foot minimum corner side setback specified by the PUD zoning for Sandpiper Golf and Country Club to allow for the construction of a new single-family detached home on the property located at 659 Avocet Trail.
Here is the subject property on the aerial. There's where it fits into the overall development. Here's the lot plan, and then here's the site photo. You can see the foundation has been started, and then here's another shot with Sandpiper Club Boulevard. So
That's not the correct one. There we go.
So this is the correct site plan that was applied for a building permit, BLD 22-05941 in July. During the planning review, we did note that the setbacks the corner side setbacks don't meet the 15-foot minimum as specified by the PUD and on the plans. We communicated this through our e-plan system to the applicant, and the permit was placed on corrections needed status because they would need to move or put a new house on, something to meet the 15-foot setback. The permit was canceled on August 16th. And I really don't want to get into I don't really want to get into the things about the permits. Let's just say that, so another permit was applied for. It was approved. Mr. Tavlin started construction. That's why the foundations and everything are there. It was later discovered that an incorrect site plan was uploaded, and then they corrected it by putting this site plan up, which we said, whoa, this is the same one that you had before. You still need the 15-foot setback, and that's when decided it would be a good idea to apply for the variance, because there was just a complete mix-up between the two site plans and the two building permits that were applied for. So a bit of chaos, a bit of confusion that we're asking you to help us out with, and grant this lot an 8.6 foot corner side setback.
And that's only at that one corner section where it actually.
Right, so if you approve the 8.6 side setback line, that would be the line for everything. And this corner is 9.7 feet away, so it's further away. So yeah, this is the closest point at 8.6. So that's why we're asking for that to be the new setback line.
While we're on the subject, I show this little concrete slab, and of course that's easy enough if we need to move it back, but does a screen enclosure have a different side setback? And would it be okay where it is? Because it looks like it will infringe into that, at least trying to continue that dotted line. I can easily shorten that to where it doesn't.
So usually screen rooms with screen roofs have a smaller set,
That's something we don't do until the last anyway, because people tend to spill coffee and everything else you can imagine on those slabs.
Right, now if they want a hard roof on their screen room, then it may need to.
We've done that over on the golf course side due to good golfing.
And the foundation has already been laid.
Foundation's been poured.
So if this isn't approved, there's going to be a mess to try to.
Yeah, I mean, we got the permit, we called for inspections, we got the inspections, we poured the foundations, and then it was brought up. Now, the building department was kind enough to tell me I'm at my own risk here, so I went ahead and laid the concrete block, and we did the plumbing rough in because it's the least of my worries if it's not approved. Like I said, I'm paying these folks rent right now, and I wanted to at least muddle along with what I could. But the trusses are sitting on the lot next to it right now. And we haven't gone up with block because obviously we do get into an investment there. other than the foundation wall, like you obviously see.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
You have a motion
Second.
and a second. Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Ms. Mayweather?
Yes.
Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Tessmer?
Yes.
And Ms. Cornishi, yes.
Thank you for your understanding.
Thank you.
Hopefully I don't have to come back. I think I can get these other. I'm hoping that anyway. There's just a few feet there. So, we done?
Sandpiper keeps us busy, so please come back.
We're really on the golf course. We train real well, so we got to back up Friday. We had people calling from Tampa to Orlando. We ran out of cars.
Wow.
Nobody had anywhere to golf. Everyone was closed because it flooded.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Do we have any unfinished business? Do we have any new business? All right, we are adjourned.